All kinds of stuff. Who he thinks the best running back is, how he compared as a high school running back. It's going to be a lot of fun. I am joined today by Ryan Clark and Marcus Spears. So let's get right to it, gentlemen. New on NFL Live, according to our Adam Schefter, the Rams are promoting pass game coordinator Nate Scheelhaase to offensive coordinator, making quarterbacks coach Dave Ragone the new co-offensive coordinator / QB coach. Scheelhaase interviewed for 5 head coaching jobs during this cycle, but now the final offensive coordinator opening in the league has been filled in a very Rams kind of way. Remember, they also brought in Cliff Kingsbury to join the coaching staff under Sean McVay. So really just kind of a new mix of guys. RC, what do you think of what the Rams are doing out there with the offensive staff?
Well, I think the first thing is that Sean McVay makes it work no matter who it is. And we've seen so many of his assistants move up in Los Angeles and become head coaches. And Nate Scheelhaase, who had opportunities to interview for head coaching jobs, seems like the next up. He was the pass game coordinator last year, and we saw what they were able to do with Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, and that group of tight ends. For me, it's also bringing in Cliff Kingsbury. Now you're collecting other great offensive minds, and for me, what that adds is an outside perspective on how other people see you, how they know your tips, your tendencies, and how you can now change from the perception that is had of you outside of the building. When someone can say to you, when we prepared for this offense, here is what our defensive staff told us.
RC, I love that. I'm going to go to the opposite side with these coaches. It's guilty by association in a good way. If you're Cliff Kingsbury, why wouldn't you want to come work for Sean McVay and see how a head coach with that tremendous amount of success has been able to sustain it? One, with a veteran quarterback, a team that's changed around him, and also Scheelhaase being there, being promoted from within. And Sean McVay, we all know who's the catalyst to this offense and how much success that they've had. So I would want to be a part of a staff for the next step in my journey. Remember, Cliff Kingsbury has been a head coach in this league before and started really well, and it fell off. So I think a lot of this for Sean McVay is not only having more eyes and ears and more experience in the locker room, but it's also for Scheelhaase and obviously Cliff Kingsbury to learn from a guy that's doing it at a very high level and have that be a part of your resume when you go into this next phase of trying to become a head coach and run an organization, more so than calling X's and O's, but recognizing how important it is to have all of that other stuff figured out.
Whatever McVay's doing, it's working. 9 NFL seasons so far. He's had 10 or more wins in 7 of them and appeared in 2 Super Bowls. That is one of 21 new offensive coordinators around the league this offseason. Just a monster number. So we want to go through some of the new offensive coordinator quarterback pairings. In Seattle, they brought in Brian Fleury, who has been part of Kyle Shanahan's staff in San Francisco the last several years. Here's what he had to say about his plans for the Super Bowl champions offense.
I do think one of the advantages of taking this job is there is going to be a lot of continuity. I've already started to dive into everything that Clint was doing here last year, and the goal would be to maintain as much of that as possible, but there's also areas where we can supplement that with things that we've developed and done in San Francisco under Kyle that, Clint wasn't there for or maybe didn't implement as much. So it's that's going to be the goal, is to keep as much as we can the same, but I think there's definitely areas we can grow, some different ways we can challenge the players that they should be looking forward to when they get back here.
Swagoo, you want to talk about high expectations. This is a team that just won the Super Bowl. How much pressure is on this guy?
I think it's one of the most pressurized offensive coordinator jobs in the league. I would say the most if it wasn't for Philadelphia. But when you think about this, I love what Fleury said in his interview. He said, we are going to keep some of the things because it's really about committing to making sure that Sam Darnold keeps on this track of being a very high-level quarterback in this league. And there's nowhere to go outside of the Super Bowl but down. So why wouldn't you want to implement some of those very successful things that he's done? But he's also said, I want to put a little bit of my spin and bring some things and nuance to this offense. I think that was the perfect answer. If he would have came in, you, me, and RC, me, and RC would have been like, what the hell you mean you're going to change everything? We just watch y'all win a Super Bowl. We just watch y'all go toe-to-toe with the Los Angeles Rams in order to get to a Super Bowl from an offensive standpoint. But I think he made the right correlation and connection between becoming this new offensive coordinator, the progression of Sam Darnold, and also saying we can add some nuance to become even better than we were last year.
And where you become better, Marcus, is the physicality in the run game. And I know that's going to sound crazy because of what we saw Kenneth Walker do down the stretch. But look at the way that this team changed as Kenneth Walker became a priority in this offense, that Kenneth Walker and the run game started to excel. And the one thing the San Francisco 49ers have consistently done is been creative and put the football in Christian McCaffrey's hands in so many different ways, especially in the run. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Brian Fleury can do with that aspect of this team, because one place they struggled during this season was in the red zone, and having a great run game can be the cure for a lot of those ails.
Yeah, Seahawks just 21st in red zone efficiency this past season. They ran it in the red zone at the 5th highest rate, so that is an area where they'll look to improve. In Baltimore, new offensive coordinator is 29-year-old Declan Doyle. He's going to team up with quarterback Lamar Jackson. Doyle talked this week about his expectations for building a championship offense.
We would expect him to be here, and certainly it is voluntary. And so, but it's also, if you want to say that you're going to win a championship, you want to say that you have championship standards and those are your goals and your expectations. Certainly that's going to take work. That's going to take collaboration. That's going to take the beginning of building the relationship with their coaches, other players, starting off this next regime on the right foot.
So a little touchy there. Coaches aren't supposed to pressure guys into showing up for voluntary workouts. But Swagoo, you like the message from the new coordinator?
I love the message. Graz, you and RC know I'm an elephant in the room guy. And if Lamar Jackson ass ain't there in the offseason with a brand new offensive coordinator, we going to come on during this football season. And the first minute they struggle, we going to talk about Lamar wasn't there when this coach showed up. I think that's a big move by Declan Doyle. It's establishing respect. It's establishing that I'm the coach and offensive coordinator, but I'm wanting, and my quarterback here, I'm wanting the guy that I've seen do so many tremendous things in this league to be a big part of the success that we have. And I got to reframe something that I said earlier. This will be the most polarizing offensive coordinator job in the league when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens because of who Lamar Jackson is and how this offseason has transpired. But I think that's a statement that he needed to make. Bashadi alluded to it throughout the coaching search. Lamar have his ASS down here when we trying to make this decision and be there in the OTAs. And I think more than anything, Lamar understands this as well. If he wants to win a Super Bowl, if he wants to go deeper into the playoffs and have better performances, it's going to start now and building the rapport with your new offensive coordinator, who I think is ecstatic to work with Lamar Jackson and try to get him to where he hasn't been yet.
Well, speaking of elephants in the room, let's get to the real elephant. Lamar Jackson has more cachet than Declan Doyle. And I'm talking about more cachet than Declan Doyle in the Baltimore Ravens building, in every building around the NFL. And so the word that stands out to me is collaborative, right? Because we gotta get together and work on something that works for Lamar Jackson, something that works for the Baltimore Ravens. He needs to have input, and that's why he needs to be there. Lamar Jackson doesn't need to be in Baltimore in OTAs to get taught how to play football. Lamar Jackson knows how to play football. If you're Declan Doyle, you're getting this job when you were working under Ben Johnson, who's called plays. This is your first time at 29, the same exact age as Lamar Jackson. And so now let's collaborate. Let's work on something that you feel good about and add the things that I've learned working under a genius like Ben Johnson, seeing Caleb Williams ascend, and make this offense as explosive as it can be under the two-time MVP. And so when they get together this offseason, the conversation is going to have to be about what makes us most comfortable, and Lamar Jackson needs to be in Baltimore to have those conversations.
Yeah, those 2 MVP trophies, but the reason there's a new staff there in Baltimore and John Harbaugh's gone is because they haven't had the playoff success, so we'll see what they can do to fix that. In Tennessee, new head coach Robert Saleh brought in Brian Daboll as his offensive coordinator. Daboll has worked with Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, Jackson Dart. He's going to work with Cam Ward now, and here's what he had to say about his new quarterback.
Again, we've had some young quarterbacks previously with obviously Josh and Jackson at York, but everybody's different. I don't want to just put him into a particular box. I think the most important thing is to first develop the relationship with the young man. I always like to see the game through the quarterback's eyes. And again, there's going to be mistakes out there that I think he's made on tape previous, and he might have a completely different answer. So that communication is really important. Yeah, I feel comfortable with Cam. His ability to throw the football, his athleticism. Everybody's a little bit different in their drops. Everybody's a little different with their throwing motion. I'm excited to work with this young man.
RC Daboll was coaching the Giants this time last year. They looked at the top quarterbacks in the draft, so he's familiar with Cam Ward's game. How do you think this pairing works?
I think this pairing is going to work really well. When you look at Josh Allen, Daniel Jones having a great year initially under Brian Daboll, and what we saw from Jackson Dart, he's clearly shown, Daboll that is, that he understands how to tutor and help some young quarterbacks come along. And when you look at Cam Ward's tape last year, there are 10 throws on his tape that are absolute dimes that nobody in the league could have done better. There are plays that he makes where he goes above and beyond the X's and O's. And I believe Brian Daboll will be part of this coaching staff and part of the people or part of the group that gets him to take that step and move to the next level as the first overall pick of the draft last year.
I love that, RC. I love that he acknowledged that young quarterbacks are not a monolith. These guys are different. They think different. They see the game different, and the approach will be relationship and collaboration, like you mentioned with Lamar and Declan Doyle, RC. The one thing I like about Brian Daboll, I saw him in college at Alabama as an offensive coordinator. You saw him build Josh Allen from where he was and took a huge step there. You mentioned Daniel Jones and Jackson Dart, and he was highly scrutinized for how Jackson Dart usage was, and we talked about the flux that they were in as far as the job there. But this seems like something that's going to be consistent and you can grow with. And I believe Cam Ward is the type of quarterback that get coaches head coaching jobs. As long as he can bring the best out of Cam Ward, because he was in a bad situation last year, and this dude played and competed like he was playing to go to the playoffs.
Yes, he did.
And trying to win a Super Bowl every single week. I think that's the first thing you recognize about Cam Ward, the seriousness in which he takes his job. And I think Brian Daboll approaches it that same way. And there may be times, because with both of these dudes' personalities, that they butt heads. But I think it's going to be the type of butt head to get everybody better as opposed to going separate ways.
And also, too, if you just have any time, you need to go check out the coaching staff of the Tennessee Titans. It's the baldest coaching staff of all time. Nobody has hair.
Yeah. Why they ain't hired me for D-line then?
Yeah, Saleh has a type, it looks like, in putting his coaching staff together.
For sure,
big head.
They're leaning into it down there. We got a lot more. We got a lot more to do here on NFL Live. Saquon Barkley is going to join the show live to discuss a key player returning to the Eagles offense, as well as a new face that's brought in to get them back on top in the NFC. And that's one legendary running back. We got another one on the show, Tracy Morgan. That's right, the late-night legend used to put on the pads. He joins us in studio to talk about his new football show, The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins.
Taxes was so taxing.
Now taxes is so free. Terrible tax.